The last session. Dr. Elena Voss was already dead when police arrived, but her final patient sat in the waiting room, flipping through a magazine like nothing happened. The small psychiatric practice occupied the third floor of a Victorian house in Portland. Dr. Voss spent 11 years treating cases other therapists wouldn't touch. The violent, the broken. The murder was elegant. A single stab wound to the throat, delivered while she sat at her desk. No defensive wounds. The killer had a key, or she invited them in. Detective Samira Cole found a camera hidden inside a hollowed-out book, recording everything, every session, broadcasting live. The patient in the waiting room was Marcus Webb. History of dissociative episodes. He claimed he waited, but his hands smelled of copper, and his shoes left bloody footprints he couldn't see. "I don't understand," he kept saying. "I just got here." The camera held 47 sessions, but the 48th captured the murder from above the desk, and watching it revealed something impossible. The killer wore Marcus Webb's face. Same scar, same habit of touching his left ear. But Marcus was in the waiting room during the murder. Security footage proved it. 2 locations. Same man, doing 2 different things at once, unless he wasn't the same man at all. Marcus had a twin brother, Michael, identical, except Michael drowned 7 years ago off the coast of Maine. The body was never found, case closed. But the man on camera wasn't Marcus. The mannerisms were wrong, and when he turned to the lens after the murder, he smiled and touched his right ear, not his left. Marcus always touched his left. Someone paid for Dr. Voss's services for 18 months under Marcus's insurance. Someone sat in that chair, confessing things no brother should know. Someone wearing Marcus's life like a costume, and Marcus never knew. The real Marcus had seen Dr. Voss for 3 years before payments came from a different account, before handwriting changed, before patient history included details Marcus never mentioned, because they belonged to Michael. Michael hadn't drowned. He had swum. He waited 7 years to step back into a life that should have been his. He used Dr. Voss to do it, because who would question a therapist's patient? The twins studied Marcus from a distance, learning everything, becoming him more completely than Marcus knew himself. Then one day, he walked into the office and took over. The real Marcus was still there, but only when Michael needed an alibi. The dissociative episodes weren't a condition, they were cover. For days when Marcus couldn't account for his time because Michael was living it instead. 2 men sharing one identity, and Marcus had no idea. Dr. Voss figured it out. She wasn't treating one patient. She was treating 2 people who engineered the perfect hiding place. One legally dead, one legally alive. She confronted Michael, told him she knew, told him she would report it. Michael listened calmly, then asked if she wanted to hear something interesting. He told her about the camera. Someone watched every session for months. Someone who wasn't him and wasn't Marcus. Someone who paid for access to her practice, her patients, her files. Someone who wanted to know how the human mind breaks, so they could break it better. Dr. Voss reached for her phone. Michael stood up and demonstrated exactly how much he learned about breaking things. The camera captured all of it, but the feed was live, which meant someone, somewhere, watched it happen in real time. Someone who now had footage of a perfect murder. Cole stared at the waiting room footage. Marcus Webb touching his left ear, confused and unaware. His hands didn't do it. His brother's hands did. His brother's client waiting. The server was encrypted, untraceable. Someone invested in Dr. Voss's practice for access to her patients, their secrets. But there was one detail that didn't fit. The receptionist who left at 5, Teresa Vance. In her file was a number tracing to a disposable cell. The same number texted Michael's phone for months. Teresa knew. Cole found her in a motel room 6 hours later, packing to leave. A laptop showed an encrypted video call with a user named Only Collector. The screen was black, but the audio was live, and someone was breathing. Dr. Voss wasn't the first, Teresa said. She was just the first who figured it out before dying. The collector ran this for 6 years. Different cities, different practices. The collector paid for access to files, sessions, secrets, then used that to make them useful. Teresa was recruited after her brother went to prison for a murder she knew he didn't commit. The collector found her at her lowest point and offered power to break the system back. She planted cameras for 4 years. 4 years of watching people pour out their souls where they thought they were safe. She gave Cole a warehouse address. When the tactical team breached the warehouse, they found rows of hard drives, hundreds of therapists, thousands of patients, decades of secrets. But the center of the room was different. A single chair facing a wall of monitors. And in the chair, a man with no identification, no fingerprints, no past. He sat so long his legs atrophied. A catheter, an IV, a feeding tube. And he had been watching for years. He didn't resist arrest. He just asked if they would let him finish watching one more session. On screen, a woman confessed to poisoning her husband. The confession was beautiful. They called him the architect. He designed the whole system: recruitment of insiders, identification of vulnerable practices, cultivation of patients who could be weaponized. He didn't collect secrets for money. He collected them because he was fascinated by the moment when a person decided that another person needed to die. That moment was his art, his obsession. He watched it happen 743 times, and he used that knowledge to create new moments, new murders, new perfect instances of human darkness. Michael Webb was just one tool. The architect loved twins, 2 people sharing a face but having completely different souls. He planned the Marcus Michael substitution for years, waiting for the perfect moment to insert Michael back into a life that moved on without him. Dr. Voss almost ruined it by figuring it out too soon, but her death proved the system worked. It showed that even someone smart enough to see the truth could be silenced. The architect talked for 3 hours. He had files on politicians, on judges, on police officers. He built a map of human weakness, waiting for the day he would need to use it. Marcus Webb was exonerated eventually. The dissociative episode stopped once Michael was in custody. He moved away, changed his name, tried to build a life not shared with a ghost, but he still touched his left ear when nervous. And sometimes, late at night, he woke up convinced he could hear his brother breathing. The warehouse burned down 6 months after the arrest. Electrical fault, all evidence gone. The case collapsed, and the architect walked free on a technicality. Last anyone heard, he was in Argentina, still watching, still collecting, still waiting. Teresa Vance got 15 years. She reads about him sometimes, in whispers passing through online communities. The architect is still recruiting, still planting cameras, still searching for that perfect moment when a person decides someone else needs to die. And somewhere, right now, a therapist listens to a patient confess something they think is safe, something they think is private, something that will end up on a hard drive in a warehouse, studied and cataloged and eventually used. Because the architect doesn't sleep. He just watches and waits and learns. You've been listening to Dead Air, a not true crime production. See you next time.